Hi.
What a break!
Are we ready? Are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah, 2 minutes break. That's good.
So if you're ready, Thomas, you can start.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ronan. Okay, so this is a topic that has been on my radar for quite some time now. And I'm going to share with you my knowledge or latest insights about what the new EU regulations and we're going to talk about the CRA or Cyber Resilience Act and NIS2 and what they mean in the context of Matomo and Matomo services. To start with, I'm not really an expert in this, so I will give you like other individuals' knowledge in this. But I'm trying to be a bit humble here because I'm actually part of a science group at the University of Skövde in Sweden, and I've been part of that for a couple of years, and we're working with, or they are working with. I'm kind of in the reference group with sustainable digitalizations and studies around that, and some of the topics the last years has been really related to these new EU regulations and what impact it will have on the industry in Europe. And I will try to share at least some of my own insights, and hopefully you have more people here in the conference that can contribute. But let's see what we can learn together. So this is a bit about the agenda. So first of all, why do we have all these new demands? I will talk shortly about the CRA and NIS2 and what they mean. I'll also mention the cloud certifications that will come 2025. And last, talk about, so what does this really mean to you if you're providing Matomo as a service towards the European Union? Because it will have huge impacts, I can tell you that, for a lot of us. No matter who you are, you will have to up your game to deliver towards particularly the public sector. But yeah, let's see what we can learn. So I mean, this is of course, if you're Swede and maybe if you're Scandinavian, this was one of the biggest headlines after New Year's in Sweden this year. We had an enormous attack on one of the IT vendors in Sweden, and over 120 authorities were affected by this big IT attack. And I mean, the reason behind it, I'm not going to go into detail, was very sloppy IT security work, very sloppy maintenance of their softwares, and not being a professional vendor, to be honest. It all comes down to that. I mean, with that said, you can never say that our service is secure. No one can do that. What you can say is that we're doing everything we can to keep our services secure. But in this case, it was pretty obvious that they were failing, and they were failing big time. And internal employees reported later on that they pointed out to their management that we should take care of security better, but they didn't act on that, and so on. So I mean, this is the case, and I'm just bringing it up because this is just one of the cases, and we see an enormous trend of IT attacks in Europe, and that affects the public sector, and most of them we don't hear about. But I mean, this is the reason behind it, and this is actually the EU Commission's own data. Cyber attacks costed 5.5 trillion euros to them 2021, and I can't even imagine what that number is, but that was the cost for this cyber attacks and what they caused for us. Sensitive data is lost and leaked on a massive scale, and I mean the thing that they see is that we lack rules, we lack standardization, And the problem is that people that procure IT systems, they don't have the knowledge about these things. They are usually buying features. If we talk about the Matomo context, people want to just have Matomo, they look at 3 vendors, and they pick the one with the lowest price. I mean, we see this everywhere. But if they would have to look at the security requirements coming from these regulations, maybe 2 of those vendors wouldn't even be able to provide the service because the lack of implementation of security in their services. And I mean, this is where we have to move because of the enormous effect of these like poorly maintained IT services. And I mean, Matomo is just a service, and this is the Matomo conference. That's why I'm talking about Matomo here. But I mean, it's a bigger thing than Matomo. You all understand that. But this is the background to why these new regulations are coming in place. And these are regulations are laws. It's nothing that you can decide to choose to pick on. It's becoming new laws in the European Union. And to be honest, there are more things. So in relation to cybersecurity, there is the Cybersecurity Act. There's this NIS2 directive that I will explain a little bit. You have the Cyber Resilience Act, Cyber Solidarity Act, and then on the trust and safety part, you have eIDAS, which is a EU regulation about electronic identification and trust services for transactions, and that is also coming into place. And so we're seeing a lot of regulations in terms of how we can build IT services for the public sector. But many of these are not only affecting the public sector. They will be affecting the whole industry in Europe and, as an effect, the whole world, because anyone that want to sell IT products needs to adopt to this, because Europe is a huge market. And then, of course, the AI Act that has been a huge talk about lately. But let's not talk about the AI Act here. I don't have too much, but I just wanted to show you that there are many legislations coming. All right, so let's talk about NIS2. The NIS2 directive is really about improving overall resilience, and there is a NIS1 directive. So the NIS2 is an add-on, and it's adding more critical sectors, as they use in their wording. So more get affected by the NIS2 directive and the rules in it, and they also stated out more things. So on a high level, it's about like raising the barriers of what security requirements you need to have when you provide IT services, and then it's a high focus on incident reporting. So that's the key things here. So it's really about, again, making sure that the cybersecurity within the European Union gets to a level that is okay, to avoid these cyber attacks, or limit them at least, or limit the damage of them. So I mean, this looks pretty easy, right? But we will come to what it means in practice later on. CRA, spelling error. That's good. But the purpose here is to make sure that products that are sold within the European Union and have a higher security, basically. So in Europe, you already have like the CE certification of physical products. So you can think of this CRA as a bit of a similar thing for digital products. So you need to have this stamp to sell digital products in Europe later on. And it's about really making sure that digital products are secure. So you need to ensure that your products are updated and you need to, if you sell a product, you need to include security updates for 5 years after it's sold. And you need to really, they're really changing how this works. And what also comes into play here is that if you're using open source, you need to basically be able to, or if you're selling a service based on open source, you need to guarantee, even if the open source project is closed, you will be able to, or you need to make sure that the product is security updated for another 5 years and so on. So this puts a lot of pressure on not on the people creating open source, but on the people selling services based on open source. One thing that is also coming is a cybersecurity certification, and that's a part under Cybersecurity Act. So to sell services towards the public sector, procurements will force you to have a certification in many cases. So this will be a gatekeeper for you to be able to sell services to the public sector. That, okay, we require it to be certified according to this. So it's really about like helping public sector to procure secure system more easily than instead of like today maybe their IT department or security department writes requirements about security, and it's all comes down to how good they are at asking these questions, and so the point here is to like standardize it. And there will be 3 levels of this certification. So it really depends on what type of service the authority will buy. So you have the basic, substantial, and high. So basically, Matomo will probably be mapped under the basic certification level. And that a lot of things will map down to that. You need to make sure that it's secure and that you can guarantee that it's updated and updated within time. So if there are security updates on Matomo or any other component that you use to provide Matomo, you will like be forced to update them within a certain time and so on. And you will have to report incidents to your country's organ for collecting these incidents and so on. So it's a lot about like processes. You can think about like if there are ISO processes or ISO standards that you can certify your company towards. I think most of these will map back to that. So probably more to be able to be certified, you should probably have an ISO certification as well. Yeah, so an effect on a Matomo provider is that we really need to make sure that we document how we do things, how access control is handled. We need to have risk assessment, and all these things needs to be documented and submitted, and we need to do pen testing on our platforms. And those pen testing has to be done by a third party, and we need to have documents saying that these platforms are certified, or at least were certified at a certain date and so on. So it's really about raising the barrier of quality here. So in practice, I would say that you really need to update things fast. You need to have a plan for how you maintain Matomo. You can't, I know a lot of people use the built-in web interface to update Matomo, for instance. You can forget about that. It's not, you can't do that. You need to do it through version control. You need to know what you're delivering. You need to test stuff. and you need to have a process to react on updates. So if there are security updates, you need to act on those. I know a lot of people more maintain their Matomo installations as projects. So it's really like, we plan to do an update after summer, we plan to do an update in November, and then one time before Christmas. So it's really like project based. But to make a service secure, you need to have a constant monitoring, and you need to be active all the time. And I mean, today you can think that this is an option, but it's really, you really need to go that way. You should, one requirement that will also be part of this certification is that you can deliver a software bill of material, or SBOM, and that's, I'll talk about that, what that is. And one requirement will be that you can actually contribute back to Matomo to fix issues and security issues that you find. So what is an SBOM? Well, that's a complete list of everything you use to run Matomo at a certain point. So at a certain point, you have a certain version of the database, of the web server, of the file system, of the operating system, etc., etc. So you need to be able to provide an exact list of what you're running right now to provide Matomo as a service. And you need to maintain that. So if someone asks you, what were you running April 1st, 2024? You should go back in time and be able to provide that list, so you know exactly what vulnerabilities you had at that point. And not only Matomo, this is for the whole stack. Yeah, so to do this, I think you need to rebuild stuff with modern architecture. So going into Kubernetes and those type of Kubernetes and Docker, because what those offer is version control. If you're running Kubernetes or Docker, you can actually have version control of not only Matomo and your plugins, but you can have version control of your operating system and all the packages, and also the network configurations you're using. So it's not a requirement, but I think I have a hard time seeing that if you don't have that, you have hard to meet the requirements. It will require a lot of work. And also you need to have automation. You can't do manual deploys. You can't click in the interface, because that will break. You don't know, because you don't know what you're doing if you're doing that. You're just relying on that someone else did something right, but that will not be okay anymore. At not least if you're delivering to the public sector. All right, so this talk is a little shorter than my last one, so I'm going to open up for questions and talk. And first of all, I think this is great, because I think we don't need more cybersecurity attacks and hacks and data leaking out from the public sector. We need to up the game. So personally, I think it's great. But I would love to get questions from the audience or comments. What do you think? Do you think this is a good thing, or what do you think?
Thank you very much, Thomas. So we are waiting for some questions within the chat. In the meantime, I'm just going to ask you, as usual, some questions. So I have two in reserve, let's say. The first one is, like, as far as I understood, let's say the Cyber Resilience Act means, like, it's concerning people who are Matomo service provider or providing some cloud about Matomo. Am I correct?
It affects anyone selling services within the European Union digital services within the European Union.
Okay. Hold on. I have someone knocking at my door right now. Of course. Hold on. I'm just coming back in a second. Sorry for that.
Okay, no problem. So I will open up. Anyone else having questions? Write in the chat. What do you think?
Okay. Nothing of interest, of course. So I'm just looking at the chat. I cannot see any questions left. So it's currently 10:22. I'm wondering, Thomas, if that's okay to you if we talk about another subject on which you have an expertise with.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I put one in the chat. So one community member sent me a message yesterday saying, "Hey, Renan, have you seen there is a feature in Matomo Tag Manager named Custom Request Processing Function? I don't know if you already see this feature at all. I mean, if you connect to Matomo Tag Manager, you may see this feature within the variable. And I was wondering if you will be able to tell us a bit more about this specific feature, because it's and tell us about the opportunity and what it changed. You have already seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it, but I must say that I haven't played with it yet. So I'm unfortunately, maybe Johan is going to talk about single page application later on. Maybe he has looked into it.
Okay. Because as far as I understood from this specific feature, it's a custom function to use with Matomo Tracker that can transform all the tracking requests. And if I remember well, within a previous Matomo Camp conference, you showed us how to protect a Matomo by removing some PII information. And I was wondering if this variable, or if you have the feeling that this given variable could be kind of the same thing that you are doing with custom variable or custom JavaScript.
Yeah, maybe. I haven't looked into it in detail, so I can't. I'm afraid I don't have much to say there at the moment. But what I could mention is I'm actually releasing a feature to our clients to help them clean out PII data. So that's one thing that is quite interesting for us right now. But I don't know if it makes sense. But we're building a feature where you can anonymize event data collected, and also having monitor for PII. So, for instance, we can set up regular expressions to detect PII data in Matomo, and then if those alarms are triggered, we can basically go in and anonymize them within the interface. So this is something I will do a talk about after the summer, I think. So that's a new plugin we're building, which is of course super great if you want to care about GDPR and manage incident in an efficient way.
Okay. So it's currently 10:25. I'm going to try to keep on asking you questions if that's okay for you, and if we are still available for the community. So I'm trying to dig into my head for maybe one general one. Are there any plans of any additional plugins or features or any new discoveries that you made about Matomo recently?
Yeah, I think the one I mentioned is probably the one that I have on my mind. We also built a plugin to do engagement tracking. So to measure, like, engaged visits in Matomo in a better way, because today when you're talking about user engagement, you're usually using like time on page, bounce rate, and sometimes maybe scroll depths. But I think those are quite unprecise. So we built a feature where we combine scroll and time, and that actually gives us a lot better measurements of engagements. And I think that's one example of things we're building. But I can actually show you my my PII cleaner, because I have it running locally. So if that's something out of interest, I think you see my screen now, right? So
yes, we do.
So this is a plugin that.
Nice. Okay.
So first of all, the event anonymizer looks a little bit like this. Let's see if it's loading. Yeah. So what I can do here is that I can search for data. So I also provided a lot of regexp patterns to detect data in Matomo. So that means that I can. Now I have test data. So let's search for this pattern in the event data. And okay, now I didn't get a hit. I'll search again.
Wow.
And then let's see if it works. Yeah, so here I found data, and let's say this is an PII incident that I want to anonymize. So what I can do now is that I can do a replace pattern. So maybe in this case, we just want to replace it with this pattern. Normally, this would be a personal identification number. But as you can see, I get a preview here. I can also download the results that I have here, but I can also press anonymize. Let's make a bigger stream so we can see that it's affected. And then so what I'm doing now is that I'm actually anonymizing the raw data in Matomo directly with this. So by doing that, we can fix incidents of PII pretty much out of the box. We also have an alarm function, so I can set up alarms.
Sorry, Thomas, but I'm not sure if you changed the world here or not. Okay, I wasn't expecting this morning, so I actually am a bit undershocked. I'm not sure about what I saw. Are you telling me that you succeed in developing the search and replace feature which weren't yet into Matomo?
Yeah.
I mean, this one is for PII, but can it be used for? Let's imagine that I run up my measurement plan when it comes to tracking campaign parameter, right? Unfortunately, I hired an intern, or I didn't have the coffee, and my campaign name, instead of calling it newsletter November, I call it new letter November. I misspelled and I forgot to add the S. As a result, I'm getting two campaigns which are distinct, and it's currently making my life a nightmare. Does it mean that your feature here is able to change that out and combine the two?
Yeah, it's actually, we're only working with event data right now, but I will extend it to page views and other things as well. But events is usually where we see most PII incidents, so that's why we started there. The alarms is another great thing. So I can actually set up alarms, and then I get an alarm log with dates where we had issues. So in this case, we had issues with for instance, email address in the name field. So this link will take me back to the actual search, so I can find them, and then I can anonymize them. So it's it's a pretty cool tool.
Is it going to be a premium feature? Are you in discussion with the Matomo team with this? Is it going to be a community plugin?
I think this is a value to the community. So I think I will definitely release it when it's mature enough.
Wow. I have another question for you, Thomas, if that's fine.
Yeah.
I received recently some demands from clients in order to do and perform what we call server-side tracking. So server-side tracking, the way I want to express it is more like something are happening behind the scene when the visitor is coming on your website. So we're going to take an insurance company. So insurance company website, they clearly express their will to be assured. So they are sending a form in order to say, hey, I'm interested in a car insurance company. But the thing is like the final decision is going to happen within the offices of the insurance company, where they will decide if this given individual is in fact eligible for an insurance car company. So let's say that they say no, or let's say that they say yes. We can use server-side tracking in order to map it back to the given visitor profile in Matomo. And I just would like to know if you already got similar project where, because currently we do not have kind of a plugin or any, I mean, it's possible to do it with Matomo, but we don't have yet any feature definitely developed for this. And I was wondering if that's already things that you put in place for your clients.
Yeah, we have some cases where we've done that kind of things. The main issue is to map that transaction back to the visitor. So, because otherwise you will basically, when you do the offline tracking, you will, or the server-side tracking, you will just create a new visit, and then you don't know if someone converted, who was that. So the tricky part is to like send the visitor data from the online presence to somewhere else, and to be able to map that. And I think so you need to solve that basically. And to be honest, in Matomo you usually use you can use the cookie information. So the visitor cookie you could use to do that. But sending that server side and so on, it's a bit technically tricky. And then I think there are privacy concerns sometimes also, because you're not really allowed to run analytics data with other systems without a consent. So you need to really think about your consent text to do that.
Okay. I just added in the chat the link that one provided me about this. So I didn't know it myself last week, that there is a documentation which has been published on the Matomo website explaining how does it work in the case of an e-commerce website. And it seems that this article can be used as a framework if adapted. So as Digitalist is a smart company, if there is someone who is able to identify a way of making this accessible, let's say, to anyone, I think that would be super great.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, but it's definitely doable.
Okay.
And I don't know if you can build a plugin though, because it's really about integration with your other systems. So it's not really something you can do out of the box, I think.
Yeah. I always dreamt about, not really dreamt, but a backend within Matomo in which you can easily import a CSV file according to a specific pattern in order to say, hey, those are, let's say, my raw data from a CRM, and I just want, this button in which I push it, and then it's sending internally to Matomo and populate the raw data. So that was more like the sense of my question. Okay, so I'm still trying to fill in the gap here until 11 a.m. Do you have any questions that you wish the audience would have asked you today about any of the two conferences you just gave?
Now, maybe a question to what tools are people using for data visualization outside of Matomo? Is it Google Looker people are turning to, or what are people using?
Okay,
That
I'm
would
gonna
be
ask it
my
in the
question
chat.
too. Mm.
What are data viz software you are using? In my case, I'm using more and more ChatGPT. So at the end of the day, I have the feeling that it's nothing more than, in fact, math library, something like this. So of course, it's making some ugly charts, but I would say that's really the way I tend to go, me personally, those days.
Yeah.
In the terms of solution that I'm here more and more is Snowflake. It's yes, Google Looker. What do we have? Click, Tableau. All the big one, in fact, are always coming back. So yes, Jan answered us that it was Tableau.
Yeah. I've been using Tableau and helped clients to integrate towards it as well. But so I mean,
Power BI. I have to say that we are receiving more and more information dealing with Power BI, and what I think was kind of that I was missing those last days is like, if you would like to play efficiently with Tableau, with Power BI, the thing which was missing in most of the report of Matomo is the date, because without the date, you cannot use the automatic calendar feature in all those data viz software which allow you to update the data. And the way to get it is actually with the on-prem installation of Matomo. You get custom report, and within the custom report, you can add date in UTC format. And this is where you can finally start to play seriously with Matomo, with any data viz software. But without this, you get crazy.
Yeah, of course. But and still, you're, as I mentioned in my previous presentation, you only get a one-to-one export. So you only get the page views, you only get the events, so you can't really combine stuff into one when you can't filter on any dimension unless you're building a custom report. So it's still like what you're getting is your Matomo reports out of Matomo, but you can't really create new stuff and you can't modify data and so on. So this is right, like really, even though you're using Tableau or Google Looker where you theoretically can do those things, since you're only exporting like a limited part of your data sets, it doesn't give you the superpowers that you usually need in the end.
Well, I'm gonna try to make it in another way, Thomas, because I would like our audience to realize it. You show us two conferences today. The first one, I don't know if people realize, but you rock the stage. In fact, you show us how we can get 3 years in advance in terms of data viz for Matomo specifically, with an incredible technology. I mean, that's just mind-blowing, let's say. So I cannot say, of course, what I will do on my side here, but trust me, I will do my best so that it can be recognized. The second one is like, I'm not sure if people really understood as well what your search and replace event feature is doing, but as well, it's mind-blowing. I mean, in just 2 conferences with those 2 features, you just give the possibility for Matomo. So currently it's of course on digitalist knowledge and expertise, but kind of an advancement instead of 2 or 3 years of development. So I mean, I'm gonna do my best as usual in order to make this recognized. Just would like to say thank you. So we got a comment from Jan in the chat saying we export, integrate all raw Matomo data table into Databricks and build the Tableau DB on top of. We don't do custom report. So isn't it the first and second method that you are describing? Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like they are using the data exports, the SQL I showed you in previously. So I mean, it's similar to what we are doing. I would say.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna maybe try to keep on going, maybe for one last question, so that we can go up to 10:45, and then I will prepare Rémi for to come on stage in order to give the rest of the conference. So, what question could I ask here? Yes, so I have this crazy project that I'm currently working at the moment, which is a bit similar to yours. How familiar are you when it comes to artificial intelligence?
I mean, I use it daily, and we are building services, but I'm not personally that involved in those. I'm more of a user, but yeah, I use it more and more.
My wish is to create AI feature which will, in fact, based on the prompt of a user, so saying something like, give me the last 30 days of visits coming from Firefox, take out this prompt, and then writing a Python script specifically for the API live visits, so to set the live data, in order to give exactly the report that we want. So with, for example, if I'm saying, give me the date in the first column as a CSV, the second information Firefox, and so on and so forth, it will work out. And what I'm currently struggling here is about telling to ChatGPT or Mistral AI about each heading of each column, like ID visit, what it is about, like refer type, what it is about. Do you have any pieces of advice for me to clearly give the perfect prompt to ChatGPT so that it can create the right Python script to deal with all the headings of the raw data?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you need to, if you're using GPT, you need to do a custom GPT that you can provide the database schema and so on. So you can upload that knowledge to that particular chat. I mean, otherwise you will have to like ask the questions over and over again. So it's about training that model. Or training that custom GPT to be an expert in that area. I played with that, so I built a like Matomo optimization, performance optimization GPT, and played with things like that, where you kind of link to documents and share the data model and so on. So it can get better, but it's really AI will be, or like GPTs will be good at like creating the text. So it's not necessarily always the right tool for it.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm finally discovering is like you need to hard code things with Python scripts in order to do exactly what you want, where you are in control, and then leave the approximation to ChatGPT or any other AI tool out there to make the thing. And I'm doing exactly what you're saying, knowledge base with custom mapping in order to say ID visit, this is the definition, so find all the words barely dealing with. But it's harder than I would have imagined. It's currently 10:45, Thomas. I think I took enough of your time. Once more, thank you very much for all you are doing. So all you are doing is getting even bigger than those two conferences, because I have to precise that currently you are in Stockholm, because this is where you are living and this is where you are working, and you are holding physically the event in Stockholm as well, so that the audience can move physically to Stockholm, so that our speakers can move physically to Stockholm. And does Jaime will join you soon?
Yeah, he's in the room next to me, so he will move in here soon.
Okay.
And if you're in Stockholm and if you want to join the group of Matomo enthusiasts today, please contact me, and I will be happy to include you here into the warm Stockholm Matomo community.
If by chance you have any possibility with their agreements to take some picture and then send them to us, I will do my best to forward them to the Matomo team so that they can promote it on social networks.
Yes, we will try to do a nice group photo. Sounds like a good idea.
Thank you, Thomas. I leave you peacefully, and let's catch up with the community at 11 a.m. in 13 minutes from now.
Thank you, Ronan, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's going to be epic. Cheers, Thomas.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so Reme, if you are in the room or if you can hear me, feel free to come on stage, and we will continue the event.